Doing an interview here with Sarah Ann Barrett. And Sarah's a longtime friend of mine. In fact, she actually was hanging out with me firsthand sometimes when I was actually just sitting there letting the fecal transplants soak in, which I could do fully clothed in my living room while hanging out. And wanted to talk to Sarah here as a way to sort of illustrate the impact of how the FDA's restrictions on fecal transplants is causing problems. The FDA is requiring an investigational new drug permit for people that want to have fecal transplants. And actually just wanted you to talk about that a bit, Sarah, because I guess your father had C. diff related colitis. So just tell me a little bit about your experience with all that.
So my father originally had his first diagnosis with C. diff probably about, I'd say, almost 2 years ago at this point. He had a stroke 3 years ago and had been living in a nursing home after that. And about a year into his care, he was actually in a nursing home where I wasn't very pleased with the care that he was receiving there. He didn't seem like he was well attended to. And that's when he had his first bout with C. diff, and he was placed in the hospital. And the doctors prescribed, I believe it was called vancomycin? I can't remember, something like that, yes. To treat it with him, and he responded. My father was a very loved the man, but he was a bit of a stubborn man about taking his medicine, and I think at this point, like, he was just not feeling well. And I remember, once I got the diagnosis, like, even talking with his doctors, and this was after you had done your treatments, because I remember I consulted with you a lot about this, and I did go to the doctors, to his doctors about, possibly doing a fecal transplant or considering it. And basically I was shot down. I was told, well, it's not a very, backed up procedure, and it's not, well documented, and there's no guarantee, and, surgery is the only way to go. Surgery is the only way to go. Luckily my father didn't have to have surgery at the point. My father was also a bit stubborn about things. He, the idea of doing a different treatment that was, unconventional or not medically sound or whatever, not medically well known, did not really appeal to him. He was in his 70s. Well, he was in his 60s at the time, so he had grown up with what the doctor says goes. So he was very much about following the doctor's orders. So he took the vancomycin. The C. diff cleared up. For the time being, but he was in and out of the hospital, I'd say probably at least maybe a few more times, maybe 3 or 4 more times, dealing with this issue again. And again, it was always prescribed the antibiotics. And anytime I mentioned to the doctors about, the possibility of doing this kind of treatment, my father lives in Maryland. Well, my father lived in Maryland, and I live here in D.C., and I don't have a car, so I was trying to find ways that we could possibly do this with transporting him without, causing a whole lot of upset to my father, because, he's 70 years old, not in the best condition, not in the best health condition, so minimizing effects. But ultimately, he didn't do the fecal transplant. Like I said, doctors were very much against it. I'm myself, I'm not confident enough to do something like that. Like, I'd be a little too worried about how I'd handle treating somebody for a medical illness. So,
right.
And with my father being so stubborn, it basically is found out what, his last bout with it is basically what killed him. It caused his body to shut down. His kidneys started going into failure, and within a day, he was gone. They took everything out of him.
Yeah, so 4 rounds of antibiotics had failed, and would it be safe to say then that, the doctor's refusal to do the fecal transplants might have contributed to his death at the time?
I definitely think it could have. They basically, anytime I came to them with questions about it, they basically kind of shot it down. Like you said, sometimes doctors really don't like to go for the unconventional treatment. I'm not going to say all, but a fair share don't want to follow those procedures. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think there you have it, and I think that's kind of the impact that these restrictions are having, is that one of the few, pretty much the only established treatment option that can solve this illness is now pretty much not allowed to happen because of government regulations. And because of that, people like your father are, dying because of it. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for sharing, Sarah.
Sure.